And of course, we're going to begin in Washington, where President Trump faces another political challenge after a second whistleblower stepped forward with apparent first-hand knowledge of Trump and Ukraine dealings. The first whistleblower who sparked the impeachment inquiry did not have direct knowledge of the phone call between President Trump and Ukraine's president. But attorneys representing the second person say this whistleblower does. The lawmakers also say that there are more potential whistleblowers with concerns over the Trump-Ukraine controversy. Nicole Killian is following this story and has the latest developments.
And now there are at least two. Today, attorney Mark Zaid tweeted, "I can confirm this report of a second whistleblower being represented by our legal team," adding, "This whistleblower has firsthand knowledge."
The reporting that a second whistleblower has come forward or is about to come forward, I believe, again, would be someone who sees wrongdoing, hears wrongdoing, and wants to do something about it.
House Democrats have subpoenaed the White House for documents related to the president's controversial July phone call with Ukraine's leader, pressuring him to investigate former Vice President Joe Biden and his son Hunter, who served on the board of a Ukrainian gas company.
You've got a president that's acting like a global gangster.
Republicans claim the president's actions are just politics as usual. They're insisting there is no connection between the president's decision to withhold $400 million in U.S. military aid to Ukraine.
Why did you wince?
Because I didn't want those connected. And I was supporting the aid, as is Senator Murphy, as is everybody that went to that initial inauguration. But here's the salient point of why I came forward. When I asked the president about that, he completely denied it. He adamantly denied it.
On Twitter today, the president once again attacked the former vice president, writing, "Based on all of the money he and his family probably extorted, Joe should hang it up." But Biden had a message for the president. In a Washington Post op-ed, he called Mr. Trump, quote, "wholly unfit to be president," adding, "You won't destroy me and you won't destroy my family."
That was Nicole Killian reporting. This comes as we're learning more about Energy Secretary Rick Perry's involvement with Ukraine. Politico reports there is no indication Perry called on Ukraine to investigate the Bidens, but he did want to influence the country's decision on its state-owned natural gas company. The Department of Energy spokesperson tells CBS News that Perry, quote, delivered that same message during his visit to Ukraine for the inauguration of President Zelensky, and that he did not advocate for the business interests of any individual or company. And they also call the whole thing a fiction to advance a narrative that doesn't exist. All right, so Daniel Lippman has been covering this new development for us, and he's joining us now from Washington. He is a reporter for Politico. Thank you so much for joining us, Daniel. So, as we heard, the DOE is defending Perry's actions. Tell us more about how he's caught up in this impeachment inquiry now.
So he went to Ukraine for the inauguration of the President Zelensky, and he's met with the Ukrainians multiple times to echo the White House's talking points that the government should uphold its promise to investigate corruption. And of course, he's not dumb enough to just include Joe Biden in his arguments to the Ukrainian government. But corruption in Ukraine, while it definitely exists, it's kind of code word for investigating the Bidens, at least Trump administration's end.
So, it almost seems like many, many roads lead back to Ukraine for a lot of people. What more do we know about Perry's background with Ukraine?
So he was also advocating for changes at the state-run natural gas company, Naftagaz. He wanted to remove the American who was appointed to the board, who is an alum of the Obama administration, Amos Hochstein. He also wanted to add some of his allies to the board, including people who had given to his various political campaigns in recent years. And he also, seemed to, Rudy Giuliani is wrapped up in all of this. The AP reported about how he was kind of advocating for interests in the Ukrainian state-run national gas company that would help his business interests and his clients. And of course, Rudy Giuliani is a lawyer to President Trump. And so Rudy was kind of running this freelance foreign policy operation that could have enriched himself.
So meanwhile, the president continues to say that he didn't do anything wrong. That's why he's being completely above board, and that's why he released the partial transcript. But he did say that Perry was the one that urged him to make that July phone call to President Zelensky. What are we to make of that?
Well, it looks like President Trump is throwing Perry under the bus because he wants to blame someone else for this very problematic phone call in the first place. Perry is the Secretary of Energy. He's likely to resign in the next month and a half. If you look at the transcript of the call, Trump doesn't even bring up what he allegedly thought that Perry was urging him to make the call about. There's only a brief mention of cooperation on energy security. And so it seems like half of the call is based on how Trump wants to investigate the Bidens for the Ukrainian. That's his favor that he's asking. It doesn't seem to square much with talking about energy, which Perry would have been on the call, and there's no indication he was actually on the call.
Right. So meantime, the impeachment inquiry continues to grind on, and the Democrats are asking for documents from Vice President Mike Pence regarding White House meetings with Perry. What do we know about that?
Well, it's this ongoing effort by Democrats to get up as many documents as possible so that they can get to the bottom of what happened in this whole mess. And so these document requests are likely to be blocked at every turn. And so we're probably going to see a lot of court battles because the House Democrats will sue the Trump White House and Trump administration for not turning over stuff that they should be turned over, at least in Democrats' mind. And so, you can subpoena someone, but that doesn't obligate them to give up the stuff. They're going to fight it.
Yeah, in fact, last week, the administration said that they're basically not going to even sort of recognize this process unless there is a formal vote in the House, a formal impeachment inquiry vote in the House. What's your take on this strategy by the White House?
Well, it's kind of the only strategy they have, but they want to get Democrats on record as many times as possible to vote on this impeachment effort so that they can use those in 2020 and try to hurt some of those moderate Democrats in those swing districts because they know that support for impeachment is softer in those places. But it's going to be interesting to watch how the polls shift on this. There are very few Democrats who don't support the impeachment inquiry. And so as long as they keep, Republicans on their side, it's going to be a tough vote for those Republican senators because, they're going to be they know that history will be watching, but they also can't totally give up on Trump because he's still pretty popular in their states or districts.
It's so true. I mean, when you talk about the way the polls are going to go, the polls have barely moved when it comes to voters and people who firmly support Trump. They're not swayed in any way by all of this talk of an impeachment inquiry. So we'll see how it goes. Daniel Lippman, thank you.
Thank you.